Here we go. Mike Tomlin's weekly press conference, week 3, where we are going to New England, where we have not won since 2008. Now, granted, we don't go there often, now at least. When we were finishing first and New England was finishing first, we played them a ton. But now we've been finishing second or third, and they've been finishing, well, last. So we haven't played them. Last time we played them, the quarterbacks were Kenny and Mac. And the last time we would have played them in New England was probably Ben and Brady. So that just goes to show that, yeah, we haven't won there since '08, but that's because they had Brady. So, and like I said, the last time we just played them was a few years ago, and we had, young quarterbacks for both teams. So let's see what Tomlin has to say and give us an update on anything from last week as well.
Good afternoon. Really chopping at the bit to get going this week, to lean in on our next opportunity coming off of that losing performance that we had last week. And, we got started appropriately yesterday. We took a hardcore look at the video and acknowledged some areas certainly that needed to be addressed in terms of improvement. But win or lose at this juncture of the season, we're all combing through the tape in that way. We did similar things week one. Certainly there's some things, I often say 2 is a pattern, and we've got 2 games under our belt. And so I see some things that certainly need our attention, and so I'm excited about getting to work. As far as the game and how it unfolded, it was less than stellar in a lot of areas, but we certainly had an opportunity to win until the deep moments of the game. And certainly I thought it was some significant plays that really shaped how that game unfolded down the stretch. Offensively, after that big play to Jalen, we turned the ball over in the tight red. We spent a lot of time working in the tight red as an offensive unit because we realized how significant that space is in terms of determining unit performance and thus the outcome of games. We oftentimes talk about it searching for the 4-point swing. We don't want to settle for field goals as an offense. We certainly want to make our opponent settle for field goals as a defense in that space. But as you know, we turned the ball over, and I thought that was really significant in terms of how the game unfolded. On the special team, certainly the lack of judgment by a young return man was a significant play in the game. As I mentioned after the game, a lot of times, man, when you're in close ball games, particularly early in the year, there's a play in that space, in that special team space.
We saw it both weeks.
Shapes or turns a game. It helped us in a positive way with the play by Kenny Gainwell with the Jets, and certainly the game the other day was a negative outcome. I thought our defense wore down some, particularly as the game went on. We had the desire to improve our run defense, and I thought particularly initially we did. But there's an attrition component to the game, and our lines got a little thin at various points in the game. I thought we felt the effects of that. I know certainly we were somewhat limited with some of the schematics that we would like to deploy because we had some new people in there, and we're relatively new to this season. And so we weren't as good as I'd like for us to be in terms of our midstream adjusting in terms of some of those things. And so I'm excited about getting the collective back to work here with a 6-day preparation cycle and effort to address some of those things. From a health standpoint, I'll give you a quick outline of some of these things. First, the guys that have been out. D. Elliott is improving, but I would characterize his availability as questionable at best this week. Derek Harmon, same thing. His work is improving, his health is improving, but he best be described as questionable, along with Joey Porter, who continues to work, and I just saw him back there a few moments ago. And so the same 3 guys that were out a week ago could best be described as questionable, but we'll watch them throughout the week. We'll certainly gauge their participation and the quality of participation, and particularly the younger the player, the more significant that is. Harmon obviously will be stepping into his first regular season action, and so there's a higher standard in terms of his availability. I think that's appropriate in terms of putting him in position to perform and to perform well. Some in-game things that happen to us, just giving you an update there. Loudermilk will be out. He has a high ankle sprain. That could be described as weeks. Alex Highsmith, he has a lesser significant, but at the same time, he has an ankle sprain as well. He could be characterized as out as well. We had some guys that got banged up in-game that may limit them at the early portions of the week, but should not eliminate them from participation. Some of those guys include Patrick Queen with an oblique and Slay with a shoulder. And so as you can see, a lot of those guys are and have been defensive players, but oftentimes it happens like that in football. It is our ability, is our job and their job to adapt and adjust, to put together the appropriate formula in terms of mixes of people, how we divide the labor up, and what we do schematically. And so really excited about it. That was one of the things that I was referring to when I was talking about the level of excitement in terms of leaning in on this opportunity this week. As a coach, you got to love those challenges. It's our job to put the ones that are available in position to be successful, and so we're excited about that. Now on to New England. There are new staff, certainly, but there are a lot of things that are familiar. We've competed against Mike over the years, and certainly I see some characteristics in all three phases of the game that look highly familiar. And obviously on offense, and I'll start there first, their play caller is Josh McDaniels, and we've competed against him quite a bit over the years. Offensively, the running backs are a talented and deep group. Stevenson's been around for a number of years now, has been consistently productive in that time. They drafted Henderson out of Ohio State. He's a very good top-end speed guy and perimeter guy. You see them getting him the ball in spaces and in the screen game. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Gibson, who's also a very talented member of the backfield as well. That showed in the kick return game last week, but he's been a very good contributor to them. And so they got three really capable backs and guys that we need to work to minimize. They got quarterback mobility in the form of Drake May. He does a really good job of extending plays and making plays with his legs. And so, you know, the weeks where quarterback mobility are a factor, that usually has your attention from a rush and coverage perspective. You have to be real solid in the rush to eliminate downhill escape lanes, et cetera. You got to be ready to cover, extend it as they utilize their legs to extend plays, and that's certainly been an asset of his game since he's been in the league. They use multiple tight ends at times. Henry is a security blanket for Drake, if you will. They've got an awesome rapport. You see it. You saw it play out over the latter half of last year and certainly through the early stages of this year. They got a deep wide receiver group that spread the ball around to a lot of guys. A significant acquisition in the offseason is Diggs, and certainly he's getting himself up to speed coming off the injury, and you see that, the uptick in that from week 1 to week 2, and I'd imagine that's going to continue. They move him around some. He's a big possession down target for him. And so there's a lot of people that have our attention on offense. Josh always does a nice job of working to keep you off balance. He'll get you in big personnel groups and spread you out. But as I mentioned, we've competed against him a lot over the years. There's some familiarity there, but I also imagine he's saying similar things. On the defensive side of the ball, they really did a nice job of acquiring some top-end talent up front, and I think it's been reflected in the production thus far. They got to be one of the top teams in the league in terms of sacking the quarterback. They picked up Williams from Philadelphia on the inside, and they have Harold Landry on the edge. Mike obviously is familiar with Landry. They drafted him in Tennessee. He's been highly productive since he's been in the league, and he's off to a really good start for them as well this year. They acquired Robert Spillane from Vegas. We're familiar with Robert, certainly, him being a former Steeler, but they're also familiar with Robert. Robert was a Tennessee Titan before he was a Steeler. I think he was on their practice squad at one point, and so he's evolved in a big way over the course of his career. I got a lot of respect for him and his talents. He's an every down situational player. He's a good communicator. He's a really good quarterback here, and is really kind of the hub of communication and in the center of all of the things that they do schematically. They play a lot of people in the secondary. They'll package you. They have big nickel. They have pass down situational nickel. They'll dime you at times. They have a Mapu as a linebacker that plays some in passing circumstances and is really good in coverage. I thought it was a really big play he made last week versus the Dolphins in a passing circumstance as an underneath defender with a big-time interception. They turned over some people at the safety position, but they're not lacking talent there. They play as many as 4 guys in various circumstances, and so they do a really good job of making you get prepared for package football, of dividing their labor up and using a lot of people in an effort to secure victory. Special teams has been a splash unit for them. They made a big play last week, certainly, but they've made big plays throughout. The rookie talented runner had a big kickoff return, I think, in the first preseason game, and I think that has all of our attentions, that special team space, the newness of the dynamic kickoff and the adjustments being made. I know I'm personally looking at a lot of global tape, looking at schematics and how people are deploying people. The sizes of people at times are changing in that space because of the vertical grass has been covered. And so there's just a lot of interesting things going on in the kickoff and kickoff return game that could have an impact, certainly in the splash plays at the early portions of the season. And I think their tape reflects that to this point. And so got a lot of irons in the fire, but it's such as life is that time of week. And certainly there needs to be a lot of irons in the fire as we work to get that taste out of our mouth from a negative performance and secure victory this week. I'll pause and open up for questions.
Mike, when you mentioned that the schemes are limited up front, is that because of your young guys, Y.A. Black and Logan Lee, and how do you overcome that when you have that situation?
You know, I just think in general we continue to work. It's not only their youth, it's our collective youth in this season that is 2025. You know, injuries are a part of the game. Certainly you adapt and you move on, but it certainly probably comes with more challenges at the early portions of the year, and I think we kind of felt the effects of that. I certainly feel confident that we're going to, you know, experience the benefit of that. We got some young people gaining some real in-game experiences, and we're being challenged as strategists to adapt and bring the game to them. And I think on the big scheme of things, all of those things are positive.
Do you continue with the rotation at that defensive line spot, or do you put one person in there?
Certainly, I think at the early stages of the year, particularly with the attrition that we have, we're open to playing a lot of people. I think the strength is in numbers with your defensive bigs at the early portions of the year.
Mike, you say the Patriots are, one of the top teams in the league in terms of sacking the quarterback. How do you feel about this offensive line going in there?
You know, I feel great about it, to be honest with you. You know, I like our group. We're going to continue to get better. We have to work in that spirit. Certainly, we could have been better in some areas last week, but that's life. I like the overall trajectory of the group as a collective and as individuals, and I'm excited about getting them back into the next stadium.
How do you guys balance, in terms of coverage, how do you, having guys like Ramsey and Slay, even without Porter right now, how do you balance trying to put them schematically in advantageous situations versus calling something and just letting them go out there and make a play?
You know, I think what you're referring to is the communication component of it, and certainly, like last week, for example, the 4 starters in our secondary were all new to us, and so it's probably more, most of my concerns are centered around that, our level of cohesion and communication, given the fact that so many guys are new to us.
You guys have given up the most plays of 15 yards or more in the NFL. What do you attribute that to through 2 games, and how do you fix that as a team?
Again, what I've kind of been talking about, we've got to be better. We got to strategize better. We got to play better. We got to divide the labor up a little better. Some of that's been challenging with some of the attrition, but that's what we're paid to do, and I'm excited about addressing it this week.
Mike, specifically with the middle linebackers, how do you feel like they've played it? Are you going to work Holcomb more into that mix?
I think he played some last week, but we're certainly going to play viable and capable people. PQ got banged up in game. Peyton Wilson, I think, was experiencing some sickness at points in game. And so certainly we played some more, and I'd imagine we'll continue to do that as we prepare for this week.
To have Caleb Johnson return kickoffs.
I'm sorry?
And have Caleb Johnson return kickoffs.
Probably not in the short term. I'm certainly going to give him an opportunity to work his way back from that era. I believe in his talent. He's a sharp young man. He's a hard worker. And so you leave the light on for him. You give him an opportunity to move on from it. But he has to do that. He has to display that with his daily work, and he's got to earn himself back in the position to be a participant. And so we'll see where the roads lead us. I'm open to it, certainly.
How do you coach a rookie like that to learn from that mistake, but also be able to move on from it?
Just as I described, you got to man up. You got to acknowledge your shortcomings, and then you got to work to move beyond it. And it's my job as a leader to provide that opportunity.
His response so far, I know it's only been a couple days.
He hasn't had an opportunity to physically respond. Forget what you say. It's about how you move forward in terms of your work, the level of detail, and the consistency of it. And so we certainly will be watching that closely as we push into this week.
What do you see as being some of the candidates to kind of fill that spot on?
I haven't even begun to address it yet.
The tape, Seattle converted a lot of third downs, like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14, or even if they didn't convert them, they got to 4th and 1 situations, and it was all over the middle. What did you see, whether they were attacking you or just breakdowns on your side?
I just thought in general we could have been tighter in coverage and more solid in terms of some of our communication, and oftentimes the tightness of coverage is oftentimes a reflection of understanding and fluid communication, and so we got to get better in some of those areas.
Like, how about in terms of stopping the run? Where do you feel like some of the biggest shortcomings have been in that area?
You know, I thought that we did a better job in week 2, certainly, than we did in week 1. I thought it got away from us down the stretch as we wore down. I think they maybe had 50 yards or so in the last scoring drive, for example, and so we're just simply going to get back to work.
Mike, did you have any questions about whether the Seattle player remained in bounds before going out on that fumble return or fumble recovery?
I didn't. They ruled it a touchdown on the field, and so that provided an opportunity for it to be reviewed.
Automatically.
They did that, and so I moved on.
Like looking at your own team's run game, where do
Don't
you
have
feel
to
like
challenge
you
it.
guys took a step forward?
All scoring plays are reviewed.
I thought Jalen came to play. I thought he won one-on-ones. He oftentimes made the first tackler miss. He had a good pad level and downhill finish in his play. I thought as a collective, we still lack a little cohesion at times that is slowing us down. A miscombination here, a misidentification there. It's not one particular person, and that's why I'm just talking more broadly about us just needing to continue to work and solidify all of those things so we don't leave quite as much meat on the bone.
You mentioned 2 as a trend for this year's team. Are you noticing any trends that have continued from last year in terms of how your opponents are attacking you on defense, regardless of what personnel changes you may have made to this?
No, I have not.
You mentioned that lack of cohesion. What do you think's behind that? What needs to happen for there to gain more cohesion?
Just collective work, just collective cohesion. We all better get better, not only us, but everybody in the National Football League. I see a lot of that on a lot of our tapes. Not to seek or to provide comfort. It's just the reality of why get better and physical work is so important, particularly at the early stages of the season.
Like you said, you felt like Aaron was hit too much after week 1. I think there was one more hit on in week 2. Is that a concerning trend for you?
No, less so this week because of the nature of how it happened. Week 1, it was, first and second down, play passes and things of that nature. It was more circumstantial and reasonable circumstances in terms of in-game play, possession down football, 2-minute and so forth in this game. And so it's less alarming than it was in week 1.
How was Sawyer, do you think, this past week?
I thought it was a significant improvement in the quality of his play on defense and in teams. But I think that's a reasonable expectation for a lot of young people. He had been in the stadium, and so I thought he played with more emotion. I thought he was more vocal. I thought he was more productive, probably because of that comfort. And so I'm excited about the extended opportunities that he's going to continue to get, particularly like with Highsmith being out now And oftentimes one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity. He's gotten some opportunity because of Herbeck's lack of availability, and now that Herbeck is back, he'll continue to get some more opportunities because of Highsmith's lack of availability.
Mike, after the game, Aaron talked about, as far as limiting crossing routes from what you guys were trying to do because the Seahawks were using more backed off, like too high zone defenses. How do you counter that better moving forward if other teams use that approach against what you guys try to do?
It's week to week because it's not only about the structure, it's about the people. And so, last week's solutions might be a little bit different than this week's solutions.
Mike, I know you haven't used him a lot in offense, but when you make a move like that with Caleb Johnson, taking him off kick returns, do you have to be cautious about maybe, mentally how that affecting his other role?
Certainly, but I don't think you get to the National Football League without having faced some adversity as a player and responding.
He was at
appropriately.
Iowa, not the biggest
He's a
school.
young guy, and so certainly I'm gonna watch him closely. But I expect him to rebound. I expect him to roll his sleeves up and go to work, and to wait for his next opportunity.
Mike, you guys used less play action this last week than in week one. Was that matchup specific, or was there something?
Game plan related, certainly.
Knowing it is only week 2, what have you seen from your offense through these first 2 weeks here?
I thought largely we've been really good in the red area. Obviously, until that turnover, and being good in the red area is a major component of good offensive football. I think you seek and desire to put points on the board and to score points. We did a lot of it in week 1. I thought we supported our defense appropriately so after the big interception by Herbeck in the first half and punched that in. And so I like the overall trajectory of us performing in situational moments. We've been good before halftime, I think, in both games in terms of moving and putting points on the board. I like the overall trajectory of situational play. I think we're gaining some traction in terms of consistency in our run game, but we just have to continue to have all those arrows moving upward and onward. And obviously the agenda is to produce a winning victory.
What do you view your offensive identity as, and how close are you guys to achieving that?
It's the early stages of the year. We're just trying to win football games. We're trying to distribute the ball to capable people in their areas of strength. I think that'll be revealed as we all get a larger body of work, not only for us, but for those that we compete against. I think a 2-game body of work is a small sample size.
Talked about the tush push and as a member of the competition committee, but while it's still a rule, have you thought at all about using it?
Yes.
With a player other than a quarterback?
I'm not going to get into strategy.
For a second, I'm like, what the hell does the tush push have to do with anything?
See what we do. You guys are trying to get me on record. Next.
Mike,
Somewhat related, the punt from your 48 on 4th and 1, would you be okay with Aaron absorbing that kind of hit and a sneak at this point in his career?
Yeah. Aaron is a very, very durable and tough-minded guy. I don't worry about him uniquely per his position.
Took accountability for his performance in week 1, talking to us last week. How did you feel he responded with his week 2 play?
Thought he was significantly better.
Over the week under his belt, do you feel like he could use Jabril Peppers a little bit more, and does his specific familiarity with New England play into that this week?
I haven't delved into his specific familiarity with New England, but certainly being his second week here, I'm open to expanding the utilization of him not only as a teamer, but as a defender.
Anyone else? All right.
Great, thanks.
Let it go to... There we go, that's good enough. So, I got a few notes here. Deshaun Elliott, he said at best questionable, so he's probably out. Now, here's the thing. He said the same thing about Derek Harmon. So, there's a good chance he's probably out too. And JPJ, he kind of grouped him in with those, so... I'm a little confused on the whole JPJ. Because initially, it was like hamstring tightness that they didn't want to get worse. Okay. So why is he questionable at best? Like, that just makes me think is something else wrong. And not that they're withholding information. I'm not saying that. But to have it be another week, 2 weeks with hamstring tightness, that, maybe there's an issue that they're not seeing if he doesn't play this week. Loudermilk is out, and he is actually on IR. Alex is out. But he does not have a high ankle sprain. It is actually just an ankle sprain. That's better than what we were thinking. So, yay. Queen and Slay did suffer injuries during the game, but they're going to be likely okay, good to go. Queen with the oblique, Slay with the shoulder. This week we're going to have another mobile quarterback. He's not as mobile as Justin, but he is definitely more mobile than Sam. Though, an issue I'm seeing is that we're getting in the backfield on some plays, and we're not able to make the tackle. It's happening with the running backs, and even Sam Darnold was able to spin away and I think he made a play. I don't think it was like an attempt to make a play. Like, he actually made a play on that, I think. And the Patriots, they spent money this offseason. Getting a guy like Diggs, Robert Spillane, Milton Williams in the middle. Now granted, they had a lot of money to spend. My best man's a Patriots fan, so talk with him, I knew how much money they had. And they're probably going to have a ton of money next year too. They have the money to just spend it. So they did. And they acquired some good talent this year to try to improve their team. And for the most part, it has worked because they're among the top in sacks right now. I brought this up in one of the previous videos. Guys are new. He said, the starting 4. And guess what? You add in Eccles, and it's 5. They were not here last year. They did not play together last year. Now, Eccles and Clark were on the same team, but Clark got hurt. So, they're new to the team. They're new to each other, which can lead to not having good chemistry. It's not necessarily bad chemistry, but they just don't have good chemistry right now. And they can have bad communication. It's not where the communication needs to be. And in a week 1 game at the Jets, when the defense is on the field, that means the home offense is on the field, and therefore it's quiet. Now you're getting your home game at Acrisure, and lo and behold, now you're... And plus then, we had Deshaun and Joey when we started. And this game is 5 new DBs who haven't played with each other, and you're trying to communicate when the home crowd's going nuts because the opposing offense is on the field. Sometimes it's just a recipe for disaster. Caleb is being taken off of kickoff returns for now, it sounds like. It may not. Now, it could be, but it could not be a permanent thing. Right now, he's off. And if he proves to the Steelers, I got this down, I know the rules, I've improved my kick returning. Not only do I know the rules now, but I've improved. And it's okay, here's your second shot. So until then, he's off. It sounded like he was saying other teams may have similar issues as far as the offensive line is concerned. Not like blocking, but like certain plays where your offense has like a combo block or something where you're supposed to do a certain thing. Maybe the guard's supposed to go behind and around the tackle. If he's pulling or something and he doesn't do it exactly right, or if the tackle doesn't know and he's too far back, so now the guard has to go even further back and that fucks up the whole play. Like, there's certain things that, we're dealing with, and it's possible other teams are dealing with it as well. Why? Because it's early in the year. And if you don't have an offensive line where it's the same 5 guys year after year after year, I'm looking at you, Philly, they have a lot of guys that have been there for years. Yes, they swapped out their center when Kelsey retired. But even then, Cam Jurgens already been there like 2 years or 3 years. Like, he was with the team. Right now we have a guy in his 3rd year, a veteran that's been on the team for 2 or 3 years. We have a second-year center, a second-year guard, and a second-year tackle. They're all new. Troy didn't play last year because he got hurt. No, I'm sorry, he barely played. He was in literally 1 game. So he played in 1 game, didn't even finish it because he got hurt. Broderick has been moved back to his natural position at left tackle. It's a mess right now. These guys don't have years together. Remember when we had an offensive line that had years together between Marcus Gilbert, David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, Ramon Foster, and then it was Kelvin Beachum, and then it was Alejandro Villanueva. We had guys, and even then, yes, Villanueva's new. But then still, 4 out of the 5 have been together for years. Like, you need chemistry there. You do. And yes, while Aaron took hits or sacks, it was for different reasons than week 1. So week 1 was because the line sucked. And I think Aaron brought this up. He didn't say it sucked, but week 1, yes, the line did not perform well. Broderick especially did not perform well, and even Tomlin said he did a lot better this week. Which, even if it wasn't an A game, fine, you improved. Improve again. And even if you have an A game, guess what? Improve again. If you have an A+ game, improve again. Keep improving. Keep working. Don't get satisfied. But when the offensive line blocks well for you, but now your receivers can't get open, and you're looking, you're like, no one's open, and you're hit or you're sacked. What's the rule in the NFL? If you get 3 seconds, isn't that the thing? If you get 3 seconds, then you're good. I think that's the goal. Is 3. I could be wrong on that, but I think the goal is 3 seconds. So if Aaron gets sacked, call it 5 times in a game. Just 5, right? And one of those sacks was someone got beat and he got sacked in a 1.5 seconds. Hypothetical. And another sack was 2.5 seconds. And another sack was 3 seconds, right? Well, now we got you your 3 seconds. And then another sack was, say, 4 and 4.5. Now we got you 4 seconds and 4.5 seconds and you got sacked. That's what's called a coverage sack, right? Here's the thing. DBs can't cover all day. Offensive linemen cannot block all day. Someone is going to eventually win that matchup. Either the D-line's going to win the matchup or the receiver's going to win that matchup. Someone's going to beat somebody eventually because they can't do it forever. So week 1, you're getting beat. Week 2, they're coverage sacks. And, if you get beat once or twice, it happens. Or if it's coverage hits, whatever you want to call it. So sacks, it's kind of like all interceptions are not equal. All sacks are not equal. Okay? That's just the thing. And if I'm going to go back to if you're being too emotional and you're not thinking about it, you're going to be angry and everything's going to be wrong in the world. Everyone deserves to be fired. Everyone deserves to be cut. Why are they even part of the NFL? They need to be demoted down to college. Everything's terrible. So it's just calm down and see if/when they're able to figure it out. If you guys did enjoy this video, then do leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and I will see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.